There's a place He comes to me. Though I'm blind, He helps me see. Though I see dimly in this place, one day I'll see Him face to face.
This is Kurt Kaikkonen, pastor of Calvary Chapel, Waterford, at your neighborhood church. Today on Face to Face, we'll be in the book of Revelation. So grab your Bibles and let's get started. If you want to hear this complete message in its entirety, go to yourneighborhoodchurch.com, where you can download Your Neighborhood Church app at the App Store. And now again here, we see the sea of glass. And I believe that this is the same sea of glass that we've seen before, where the four living creatures and the saints were standing there before the throne of God. But now this sea of glass is mixed with fire. And what that's thought to be is it's thought to be the judgment of God. And we've seen God in the Bible throughout described as being a consuming fire. And so you get this sense that this must be something very awesome to behold, because it's the sea of glass and now it's mixed with fire. And then to be looking at that as the floor that you're standing on. What I imagine is those vintage light bulbs that are kind of popular right now, where you see that the amber glow, but then you see this smooth, reflective glass. And maybe it's just all sparkling like the stars. And it doesn't say it here about these people that are standing. And it doesn't say about them, it doesn't say, well, here are those poor darn people who were defeated by the Antichrist. Oh, these are those poor victims that were murdered by the beast. But what it does say here, and it says it 3 times, that they defeated the Antichrist. That these people, they weren't victims, but they're all victors. They are heroes because they had victory over the beast. They had victory over the beast. They had victory over his mark and over the number of his name. And so it says they had victory over and over and over. And this is not unlike Jesus, like when he died on the cross, where Jesus, he was not a victim of Rome. He was not a victim of the Jews, or he was not a victim of the devil, but he was the victor. He had defeated sin, and he defeated death, and he defeated the devil. And these people here, they did the same. They defeated the Antichrist, and they defeated his system. And though to the world, they looked like they were a bunch of losers, but heaven, they see these people as heroes. These are overcomers. So these are very strong people, not loving their own lives, even in the face of death. Even though the world, they treated them like rebels because they would not cooperate with the satanic systems put into place by the Antichrist, and they would not join the religion of the devil, and they would rather die than take his mark. And literally, they potentially would starve to death and go hungry because they can't buy or sell any of the necessities of life, and they're not able to make a living anymore. All they could do is have a daily dependence on God for all of their provisions, while all of them, one by one, are being imprisoned and put to death. And so the last time when we met, we read in chapter 14, it said, "Write, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on." Well, these are those people. And you have to look at them here. You look at them now. They're happy. Now they're standing on this sea of glass with fire, and they all get harps. And this is where we get that picture of everybody being in heaven, and they're playing harps all day long. And it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that everybody will get one. But guitar players like me, well, we want to get one, because I can see one of those sitting in the corner of my room where my guitar sits, and I just go strum on it in my downtime. But we see all types of things in heaven. We see tools. We see tools like sickles, and we see swords and bowls. And that's because real life is going on there. Okay, so now in this musical called Heaven, there's another song that breaks out. And we see these guys that we just saw, and they're singing this song. And these are those people that did not survive the Great Tribulation, but they survived death and they survived the Antichrist. And this is just one song, but this song, it has two titles. And the first title is the Song of Moses. And we can read the Song of Moses in the book of Exodus in chapter 15. And the Song of Moses, it's a song of victory. And it's the song that the children of Israel sang when God had delivered him from the Pharaoh in Egypt, from his armies. And it's that song about the horse and the riders and them being thrown to the sea. And the children of Israel, they sang that song on the shores of the Red Sea. But these people in heaven, they're not standing on the Red Sea. They're singing their song, but they're standing on the sea of glass that's mixed with fire. And they're singing their song of victory. Because these people, they have been saved by a greater deliverance. And they have been delivered from a greater bondage than that of the bondage of the Pharaoh in Egypt. Because these people, they were delivered from Satan, from the Antichrist, and from a whole wicked world that oppressed them. And it wasn't just one country, the country of Israel, that was delivered here, but this was people from every nation of the world. And so this song, it bridges the Old Testament and the New Testament. And that's where it gets its second title, the Song of the Lamb. Because this greater deliverance, it was all accomplished by the Lamb of God, by Jesus Christ. And all of this was done through him. And in this song, we do get to read the lyrics here. And what we read here is that this song, it's all about God. And it's all about what God has done. And they're singing, it's all about you. It's you. You're great. You're marvelous. You're just. You're true. You are holy. For all the nations will come and worship before you. For your judgments have been manifest. And then after all this, John sees the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven open. And this is what the tabernacle of testimony on earth was modeled after. This is what Moses made, and this is what he saw that he modeled after. And then we see these 7 angels that stand before the throne of God, and we see them come out of the temple. And the way that they're all dressed, it reminds us of how the priests in the temple were dressed. And you can see that description in Exodus chapter 28. But instead of having these sashes, they have these golden bands across their chest. And so it's like they're all wearing uniforms and they're all looking really good here. And then we see that it's only one of the 4 living creatures giving these 7 angels these 7 golden bowls full of the wrath of God. And in some of the translations, it'll call these bowls vials. But these are bowls, and they're not a deep bowl. They're a shallow bowl. These are the kind of bowls that they used in the temple to pour out the drink offerings onto the sacrifices. These would also be a shallow bowl that people would drink from. So these are bowls that are easily poured out. But what I really find interesting here is that it's just one of the 4 living creatures that passes out these bowls, and that it wasn't all of the living creatures passing them out. Because I think with all these interesting different people or persons in heaven, and they all have all different kinds of variety of different kinds of jobs. It's like all these persons are all individuals. And it kind of makes you wonder, well, what are those other 3 living creatures doing? I mean, are they just playing cards or doing something like that? And what this does, this helps me think of heaven of being a real place with real people doing real things. And just like next week, we're going to see one of these 7 angels with one of the bowls of wrath, that after he's done pouring out this wrath of God on the wicked men on earth, that he takes the time to go talk to the Apostle John about this scarlet woman who rides the beast. And he explains these things to him, where in heaven, everybody has all these meaningful things to do, but in their downtime, they kind of just go around and they help each other out and they socialize. And so what it makes me think it's a lot like here, it's kind of like our fellowship, that, we're going to all be very comfortable up there in heaven, and we're not going to have to worry about if we're holy enough or good enough or we're doing things in a right way, but we're going to be able to relax because we're not going to be trying to be holy and to be good. We will be holy and good. All right, so now after these angels, they leave the temple and they receive their bowls. Well, now the temple, it's filled with smoke. Now, we've seen the temples filled with smoke twice before. It was one time when Moses dedicated the tabernacle was filled with smoke and with God's glory. And then we saw the same thing happen when Solomon dedicated the temple that he built in 2 Kings, where God was so pleased with it that he filled it with smoke and he filled it with his glory so that nobody could enter it. But here in this heavenly temple, it's not being filled with smoke because of dedication, where everybody is happy and everybody's rejoicing. But it's here that it seems that God, he wants to be alone, where it says that no one can enter the temple until the 7 plagues of the 7 angels are completed. And it could be that God, he wants to be alone here because of his sorrow. And some people have said it's because they think God is crying, because now God is doing something that's very hard for him to do. He's doing something that he's never wanted to do, because God, he has no desire to judge man or to judge man's sin. God gets absolutely no pleasure from it. And he's been putting this off since the creation, since the fall of man. So he's been putting this off for over 6,000 years. But he's not going to put it off any longer because it wouldn't be right, and his righteousness won't allow it. And so he's waited as long as he could so that as many who would be saved could be saved. And to be a little truthful here, I don't think any one of us would really want to save anyone there or even want to love anyone there, because these people, they have been continually cursing him as he's trying to rescue them. But that's the way God is, because God, he's just like Jesus. And if you remember Jesus, he sat there and he was forgiving those who were crucifying him as they crucified him. And honestly, I'll be honest with you, you wouldn't see me doing that, because God, he's not like me and he's not like you. God, he is really good and he is holy and he is different and he is separate from all of his creation. You've been listening to Face to Face. Face to Face on this radio station has been provided by Your Neighborhood Church. If you want to help support Face to Face and put this program on other stations just like yours, you can contact us at yourneighborhoodchurch.com or write Your Neighborhood Church, P.O. Box 500, Romeo, Michigan 48065.
There's a place he comes to me. Though I'm blind, he helps me see. Though I see dimly in this place, one day I'll see him face to face.
Tune in again tomorrow at this same time as we continue to go through the Bible.